Good morning and welcome to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. Our focus this morning is on an outstanding organization that's mission is to provide Milwaukee's most vulnerable children with opportunities to develop a wide range of skills when it comes to reading, writing, and oral communications. We're in downtown Milwaukee at the Pfister Hotel, where Sharp Literacy Incorporated is holding their annual fundraising luncheon, a novel event. My first guest is serving as today's keynote speaker. He's an Emmy Award-winning journalist of the ABC network, where he's worked for nearly 30 years on programs like 2020, Primetime, and he's the creator and anchor of one of the highest rated news magazine franchises of recent years. What would you do? It's my pleasure to welcome Mr. John Quiñones. How are you?
I like the way you say that name.
It's a pleasure to have you here today. And as I stated, Sharp Literacy Incorporated, their goal is to motivate and inspire children right in Milwaukee's inner city, getting them engaged in reading, writing, and visual arts. And so you serve as an inspiration on so many levels when it comes to that. You were born in San Antonio, raised in a Spanish-speaking household, didn't learn English till you were 6, shined shoes at age 8. Tell us more about your story that brought you to where you are today.
Well, I was the kid who was never expected to amount to much. You know, back then, because we were in an inner city urban school that did a lousy job of preparing anyone for college, and because no one in my family had ever gone to college, I was the first generation, the odds were stacked against me. I didn't speak English, even though my family is Texan, and several generations have been in Texas as Mexican Americans. We didn't have to learn English because everything was in Spanish in our tiny little community. And so, you know, it was tough. My dad was a janitor. My mom cleaned houses on the rich part of town. We were migrant farm workers when I was 13 years old. We picked cherries in Michigan and tomatoes in Ohio. We learned a lot about the family, you know, coming together and pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. I remember it was during the Civil Rights Movement, and Martin Luther King said, you know, in times of difficulty, like we were having when I was growing up, you gotta have faith. And faith is taking that first step. It doesn't matter if you don't see the entire staircase. Just take that first step, because, you know, tomorrow there'll be another one and another one.
That's right.
So that's what my parents instilled on me, that belief that I could do it, even though the rest of society was saying no. And there was a program in high school that was sort of similar to Sharp Literacy, but this was a government program called Upward Bound.
Very familiar.
And I was an Upward Bound student. They basically supplemented what we weren't getting in that urban school with classes on Saturdays and during the summer for 6 weeks to better prepare us for college, and they helped you get into college. And had it not been for that government program that some other people might call welfare, you know, for me, it was a lifesaver. And that's why I care so much about education, and that's why Sharp Literacy is such a beautiful, beautiful program, because it instills in children, even at a younger age than when I got the help. This is for thousands of kids in Milwaukee, that belief that yes, you can make it. To become lifelong learners and to be exposed to things that they would never be exposed because of where they live.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And you spoke of the Upward Bound program, and they have Upward Bound at the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and also
I'm
at
like
Marquette University. Yes, and they should use you as a poster child. You are an excellent example of the outstanding work that they do. Let's talk about this. There are some 55 million Hispanic Americans in our country.
Almost 20% of the population.
Yeah. And being a Hispanic man and I, an African American woman, I think we both can understand that in our country, there are people who judge you by your background. They judge you by the color of your skin, and you're also even judged by stereotypes that actually perpetuate what people expect from us because of those things. So talk about what really message you have for the people who have come here today to hear you speak.
Those low expectations can doom a little boy or a little girl in school. When I would ask my teachers, how do I prepare before Upward Bound, before I got to this magnificent program, I would ask my teachers, how do I prepare for English and math and biology and take extra courses and advanced placement classes, or prepare for the SAT to get into college or the ACT? They would tell me, my teachers, my own teachers would tell me, that's great, John, that you want to be a television reporter someday, but we think you should try wood shop or metal shop or auto mechanics, which, by the way, I think is what they told Malcolm X, you know, that he should try wood shop. And they did what people do on my show, What Would You Do, every Friday night. They judged me by the color of my skin and the accent in my voice. Thank God for my mom, Maria. You know, she was the one who would say, "Mijo, my son, it doesn't matter that you have to wear the same clothes to school every other day. At least we wash those clothes, right? It doesn't matter that you have to take bean and tortilla tacos for lunch when all the other kids are taking their fancy bologna and white bread. It doesn't matter. What matters is what's in here and what's in your heart, in your corazon." So that's the message that I bring everywhere I go, that if this kid who used to shine shoes and pick tomatoes and pick cherries as a migrant farm worker can make it to network television and have his dream come true, of course then anything is possible in this great country of ours. You know, the great poet Maya Angelou said, you know, we all marvel. We marvel at the beauty of the butterfly, but seldom do we consider all the changes that that butterfly had to go through to attain that beauty.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And we've got to talk about your show. You mentioned it. What would you do? And when I bring up this show, especially in preparing to talk to you today, my mother, first person, I love him. I love that show. And that is the response from a lot of people. And so you really have, with this whole concept of having hidden cameras and having people face the witnessing racism, bullying, different things of this nature, asking the question, what would you do? You really have changed the way people think.
Well, I hope so. I hope, you know, it's really touched a nerve, that's for certain. I mean, every day now, we've been doing it 10 years. I can't believe when we started it, we thought we would run out of ideas.
10 years.
And here we are a decade later, and we've done 500 scenarios, and we're still doing more. ABC wants another season next summer and spring. And I get letters all the time, and emails and on Twitter, people saying, John, I had a what would you do moment today. Where were you? So these things happen, right? Someone told me the greatest compliment I got the other day was someone said, the world would be a better place if we all thought John Quiñones was in the next room.
Absolutely.
Monitoring our behavior, because we would be on our best behavior. And it's a very simple concept. You know, when you witness injustice, when you witness discrimination or bullying or spousal abuse, racism, and that little voice in the back of your head says, do something. Do you step in or do you step away?
Wow. And that's something that really I've had to think about every time I see dogs like sitting in cars, and you know, I get so angry because they can't speak for themselves. So I go in the store and I'm thinking, okay, calm down, because there might be a camera somewhere, right? So I tell you, you've actually written a book by the same name. What Would You Do? Words of Wisdom and Doing the Right Thing. So if someone picks up this book, what else can they find?
I think it's the message that my mother instilled in me, and it's all about growing up and facing adversity and pushing through no matter what people tell, no matter what society says. Surrounding yourself with people who believe like you, with positive folks. My best friend in high school was Luis Rodriguez, and he had just come from Mexico the year before. I was born in Texas. He came from Mexico, spoke terrible English. You know, he was still learning the language, and yet he was the most positive person in the world. And because of my friend Luis, you know, he would say, John, you're going to be a famous television reporter someday, and I'm going to be a lawyer. And it came true because it was all in your state of mind. So just surrounding yourself, the message, you know, that positive message of reaching out, surrounding yourself with people who believe in you, avoiding folks who are negative, and also reminding yourself to go back to those communities where you came from and where I came from, and helping out those who are still struggling. You know, once we go to the top of that floor and that elevator of success, we got to remember to send that elevator back down to bring up the next wave of folks who need that kind of inspiration. So it's an effort, the book, to inspire folks, to tell them what I went through. And it's a few vignettes and stories about my life as a reporter, having covered Central America and covered the wars and sort of the obstacles I faced as a new reporter with working with people like Peter Jennings and Ted Koppel,
wow,
and the greats of journalism.
Yeah, so with that said, what advice do you have for young people that are out there with a dream? Because I think that what Sharp Literacy also does very well is they talk with and have programs for teachers to keep them motivated and put them in a position to motivate those children whose parents may not be as motivating at home. What advice do you have for someone who has a dream to do anything that's possible out there, but all they can see is their neighborhood around them?
And their negativity, right?
Yeah.
And society tell them no. The answer is very simple. Don't take no for an answer. You know, keep your eye on that prize. And I know it sounds trite, but it's true. I had nothing. I had nothing else. You know, no one, my family couldn't afford to send me to college. I stayed positive, and I kept knocking on doors when people said no. Even going to Columbia University, where I wound up getting a master's degree in journalism, this Ivy League school in New York. I never heard of Columbia. You know, the only time I'd been out of Texas was to pick tomatoes in Ohio and cherries in Michigan. I wind up getting a fellowship to Columbia University, this beautiful, best journalism school in the world, because I kept pushing and I kept asking and I wasn't afraid. You know, Latinos can be really shy and we're always in our shell, and I was like that. My father was like. The mentality, the patron mentality, which means that you believe what the boss man is telling you, and you never counter that, and you just say, yes, sir. That's the way too many Latinos are, and we have to learn to change that. So believe in yourself. You know, don't be afraid to ask for whatever that dream of yours is, and to make it come true. Knock on those doors, you know, get a grant, ask for school loans, whatever it takes. Education is the key. If I had not done that, I'd still be in the barrios of San Antonio, like so many of my friends, in jail or on drugs or even worse, dead.
So for some of our viewers who may be of Hispanic descent and may not have the best English skills that they could at this point in their life, what advice do you have for them? Because they may say, yeah, but you learned English at 6 years old.
Yeah.
I'm an adult and I don't know English as well. So what do you say to them? It's never too late,
There's
right?
no excuse. Yeah, there really is, and there are wonderful programs that exist everywhere in this country. You can go to night school, to a community college where churches offer programs, you know, where you can learn the language. Practice in the privacy, even at home. I would get a little tape recorder because I wanted to be a radio reporter. I wanted to go into broadcasting. So
I think all of us did that.
Yeah, we started in radio. And I would take this little tape recorder. I had a heavy Mexican accent. I couldn't say shoes or shirt because in Spanish there is no SH sound. So I would say, this is my shirt and that's my shoes, and people would laugh and make fun of me. I was determined to learn, and I bought a little old tape recorder, and I would read whatever I could get my hands on, you know, newspapers or milk cartons, and just work on that delivery, and practice and practice and practice, and just never gave up. There are enough programs out there now, even Sharp Literacy. If your kids are in Sharp Literacy, you can talk, the parents can talk to the folks who run that program and get help. There really is an excuse. You just have to work hard and believe in yourself.
Believing in yourself is really key, because like you said, sometimes people have a tendency to be judgmental, and that knocks down the confidence of others. So that's the number one thing. It does so much damage.
That's why Sharp Literacy is such a great program.
And that's why they are.
It turns that on its head. You know?
Privileged to have you here today to share your message. A powerful story of how little Juanito went on to be the first Latino correspondent for ABC
Absolutely,
News.
that's the key. Wonderful. You know, if this kid who used to shine shoes and pick tomatoes, if he can make it to network television, then anything is possible in this country.
Well, continued success to you, and congratulations on all your success. It has been my pleasure.
No, it's mine.
Thank you so much. He is an Emmy Award-winning journalist and the host and creator of the primetime show, What Would You Do? Mr. John Quiñones. And when we return to Our Issues Milwaukee, we're going to continue our focus on Sharp Literacy's annual luncheon, a novel event, where Mr. Quiñones is today's keynote speaker here at the Pfister Hotel. Next, we'll talk to the organization's president and CEO, Linda Kohler, and Cecilia Gore from the Brewers Community Foundation. We'll do that when we return to Our Issues Milwaukee.